Hey guys, welcome to Ice Hockey Aussies Power Rankings Week 11. And to kick us off is myself with pick 32. I've got no movement this week with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, no movement. It's pretty hard to make movement there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they're not really giving us any reason to change that, to be honest. Yeah, it's just the same performances week in, week out. They've got a couple of reasonable results here and there, but yeah, they're not
Yeah,
playing that well, and the losses just keep coming for them. So yeah,
yeah,
can't really do anything else for them.
yeah. Not too much to say really. Um, just standard for Chicago. I guess we'll move on to my pick on 31, and that is pick that does not move. It is the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah, I can see how some people might debate on having Columbus below them, but I couldn't do it. I think Anaheim's deserve that 31, and I think it's a solid 31 for them.
Yeah, I teetered with it. I sort of I think at the start of the week I might have had a bit of movement there. But yeah, just it's to me, Columbus and Anaheim are pretty much doing the same thing, and
Yeah,
Anaheim haven't done enough to take that spot
yeah. Like
yet.
the shootout win against Vegas kind of made you question it, but I still don't think
hmm
they've done quite enough yet to earn it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where I sort of gave them that leeway. I thought that's a good win against a reasonably good side. But then, Columbus get a win this week as well. It just makes it hard. I need to see multiple wins from Anaheim to sort of to move up any further.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to the team that we were just talking about. At P30 for me, it's Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, same for me. Once again, hasn't moved since last week for both of us. Yeah, just another team in that same boat. It seems that three have been the secret duo for the or triplets for the bottom. Um, it's not where Columbus definitely thought they were when they got Goudreau, and I, I don't know what you do as a GM in regards to that because they need centers. There's centers that are on the market, but they haven't really competed unless they're versing the bottom end teams. Like they beat Chicago this week, and like we just discussed, it's Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you look at the standings, and they're 7 points away from the next worst team. Yes, they've got some games in hands on that team, but other than the Sharks, who are 29th, all teams above them have they played the same or one or two more. They're not going to make up 7, 9, 11 points in one or two games. Um, yeah, those bottom three are clear cut bottom three at the moment, and I don't see any of them getting out of it unless Columbus somehow do what you're saying, get a center and go on a mad run. But do they really want to do that? Probably not.
Alrighty, on to my pick for 29. I have a team that moved down one position. It's the San Jose Sharks.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yes. Okay. So I thought this may be the point where we start differentiating, but I just don't think they've had a good week. It's they lose to Vancouver, they lose to Philly in OT, but then they lose to Dallas. I would have liked to see them compete a little bit harder in the Vancouver game to not move them down.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean they've got one win in their last 7 games. And yeah, so it's not really happening for them. I don't think we expected them to
Could
do anything.
could you imagine a pl- I don't know if it's happened in history, but can you imagine a team being in like 28th or below and having the defender win the Norris Trophy? Like you imagine explaining that to someone. Like, oh, he's the best in the league, but they finished 30, well, or something
Yeah,
in the league.
he,
Like,
he's he's the best. He's technically classified as the best defender in the league, but they they finished bottom five and they conceded a stupid amount of goals.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I'm not sure. I don't have the goal stats on me at the moment, but I know they've conceded a lot of goals. This year they've had a lot of games that have they've conceded 5 or 6 goals.
Yeah. Well, like they conceded
Five against
6 against Vancouver, 5 against Dallas,
Dallas,
3 against
5 and 7
Philly.
against Calgary,
Yeah.
5 and 7 against Calgary, 6 against Vancouver the last time they played them, 6 against Buffalo, 5 against Ottawa. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's bad.
it's it's not a pretty picture.
Yeah.
Um,
It was be interesting to see who they ship out coming this deadline. That's for sure.
mhm.
Alrighty, on to your pick.
Right, my pick at P28. I've got a team that we keep saying this every week. They keep moving down and moving down and moving down, and they've done it again. But this time it's off the back of just some really poor performances and some poor results. I've got the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, that's where I've got them too.
Oh wow, he's made it as well.
Yeah, they didn't move down one; they moved down two. They've changed it up. Um,
Yep.
and well, like I think it's wholeheartedly deserved. Honestly, it's just been a slow, slippery slide, really, isn't it?
Well, it has, and I think a few, 3, 4 weeks ago, we was talking about them moving down week in, week out, but not really off of poor performances.
Mm.
Whereas in the last few weeks, it's really, I think the last 3 weeks, it's really been off of their poor performances. They've got one win in their last 10,
Well, they
um,
well in
and
3 games they
they're not,
conceded
yeah.
20 goals, like,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and only score 5, like -15 for the week. The next highest was like lowest was -8. So they've basically doubled the worst, and that's including teams like Chicago and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but hey, if you're a Montreal fan, you probably wanted to be in the race for Bedard anyway before this
Oh yeah,
season started.
it's
Um, and now they are. So
yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting to be in that fan base. That's for sure. Alrighty, on to my pick, a team that moves up a couple positions to Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, that's where I've got him.
All right,
We're on a roll here.
it's
On a
probably it's
roll.
all going to fall apart later on, surely. Um,
It will. It will.
no, they've been putting in some good wins, honestly, some good games. They've beat San Jose in OT, like we discussed, but then they go and beat LA 4-2. So that's a good win. I know LA can be hit and miss sometimes, but they're still competing in their games,
Mhm.
which is good to see.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Like that's really all you can ask for Philly at the start of the year. They were on a really, really good run, which surprised all of us. They've fallen back to where we all thought they would be. But if you are a Philadelphia fan with all the stuff that's going on with Kevin Hayes being scratched, Torts, and what's going on there, and rebuild or not rebuild, I think you're similar to Arizona. You just want to see effort. You want to see good performances. You want to see them. You want to see Carter Hart doing as much as he can, and sort of just trying to see where you can go from here, and what pieces or assets you're going to keep, and what ones you're going to move on. So
Mm. No, it's definitely an interesting
yeah, it
team.
was for sure. All right, on to pick number 26. I've got moving up one position, the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, that's where I've got the Yotes as well. It's well
Oh.
deserved, honestly, well deserved that one position move up.
Well, they got some big wins,
Mm.
2 big wins. Like their last, before the Tampa Bay loss, they did win 3 in a row. One against the Kings, but then Colorado 6-3 and Toronto 6-3. Like they're two really good teams that
Mm.
they've just beaten by
And then
three
they
goals.
took it
Like
to Tampa as well. They lose 3-5, but they took it to him. Um,
yeah,
so
exactly.
So they're in games that honestly people haven't written off. So that's really good to see.
Mhm. Exactly. Like, who would have thought they would have beaten one of Colorado or Toronto, let alone both of them? It's just, yeah,
Well,
for
I
me.
think Toronto fans would have been like, "Yeah, we lose this one," but
Yeah. Yeah, well, what they did sweep them in the series, didn't they? So, oh,
yeah.
jeez.
But it's
But
good
no, good
good
week.
signs to see. I enjoy watching their games honestly. It's fun hockey to watch. All right.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting. And they've got heart.
Alrighty, on to 25. A team that doesn't move, but still it's like falling off the bandwagon. It's the Florida Panthers for me.
This is where we change up a bit, and
Oh,
realistically, it's just
disgusting.
because they didn't move for me either,
Yeah,
and I had them one ahead of you last week.
yeah. Um, yeah, they've just fallen off the bandwagon, haven't they? That's definitely they shouldn't be nowhere near where they are. They had you know, a 1-1 week and they lose to Carolina on a back-to-back, but their wins against Montreal that's been on the slide. So that's why they
And
don't
they get
move for me.
shut out against Carolina.
Yeah,
They get shut out.
they get shut out. It's against one of the best teams in the league, and it's on a back-to-back, so I understand it. But they should at least be. I couldn't move them up, and I couldn't move them down, so it's just a flat zero for this week.
Yeah. I don't expect them to stay this low, but it is getting quite worrying for them because the longer they stay down this low, the harder it is going to be to get a position in the Eastern Conference playoffs because they're 8 points out of a wild card right now.
Yeah, well, there's 9 teams below 500, and they're one of them. Um,
Yep.
and they're a team that shouldn't be below 500. They got
No,
negative goal
exactly.
differential, etc. So yeah,
Yeah.
alrighty.
No. All right. Well, at my 25, I've got a team that I didn't really expect to be this low either, but they didn't do too much this week to show me they should be moving up. So I've left them where they were last week, and it's the St. Louis Blues.
Alrighty. This is a team that I didn't have moving either, but they were a little bit higher for me. So same thing, 23rd, but not moving.
Yeah, a lot of teams around this area, to me, that they're all quite similar.
Yeah,
And they not too many of them really did anything good. I think most of these teams went 1-2 or 1-1. So it was like they didn't have good weeks, they didn't have bad weeks. They're just,
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So
that's
I just couldn't move them.
like St. Louis lose Toronto and Minnesota, but they beat Chicago. But it's Chicago. The only thing that kept them there was that the Toronto loss was in OT. Um,
Mhm.
so they took it to Toronto and then basically get a draw. And the Minnesota game, they were kind of in it, but just not in on the scoreboard. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I couldn't have them move down. That's why I couldn't have them move up. But you got anything else to say for them?
No, not really. Other than the fact that they're probably in a similar position as Florida, we probably didn't expect to see them this low. Um, but for them, they're going to have to make some decisions, and soon. They're either going to have to turn their season around or start questioning where they stand.
Maybe they
So
think the
yeah,
only way to
it'll
win a
be
cup
interesting.
is have a bad start to the season.
well,
Maybe that's the recipe.
they've done it. They've done it before. So
Alrighty. We'll
Oi,
move
oi,
on
oi.
to number 24 for me. Once again, another team that doesn't move. It's Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, this team doesn't move for me either. I don't have a lot of movement in this part. But yeah, I had them one higher than you last week.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're 23 for me.
Yeah, it's a interesting position. Like the fact that pretty much like 1 point behind Florida with 2 games in hand, with the way they started this season. Um, it's kind of fascinating, really, to
Hmm.
see how that's played out. But they didn't do enough this week for me to warrant moving up or down. The game that disappointed me was the loss to Calgary. I would have liked to seen them at least take that to a OT. but they'll lose
Yeah.
3-2. And that's what stopped me from moving them up this week. They beat Sharks, which they should, and then they lost to the Jets, which is kind of expected.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Like, if they had got that point against Calgary, like in OT, you still probably say they don't move. It
Mm,
would have been a halved week, and given the games they had, you'd probably say, um, that's where they were. You expect them to lose against Winnipeg, you expect them to beat San Jose, and then you expect them to a 50-50 game against Calgary. So, yeah, to me, they didn't do anything special. They didn't do anything poor. So they kind of just stay where they are. All right, moving on to pick 22. I've got the Ottawa Senators.
all right, another team that doesn't move for me, Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, they don't move for me either. Um, didn't have a bad week. Um, they just I just don't think they did enough for me to move them up.
Well, they took it
If
to
they had beaten
Boston and
Detroit,
Washington, which is really big. Sure,
yeah,
they beat them in OTs, but at least they took them to OTs. Um,
true.
but yeah, it's the Detroit game, isn't it, that upset it?
Yeah, that's where like I was teetering on putting them up a position or two because of the Boston and the Washington wins. Um, they that Boston game was intense. There was something like 20, I think 20. Boston put 20 shots on goal in the last 5 minutes of that hockey match. They got the goal to level it, and then they obviously Ottawa won it in shootout. But yeah, it was something like I think their shot totals were pretty similar with 5 minutes to go. I think it was like 28 all with 5 minutes to go in the third, and Boston finished 51-32. So Ottawa were really lucky to get out of that one with the 2 points. Um, but yeah, if they had beaten Detroit, you would have probably seen them move up a position or two. I like what they're doing. I need to see them do it more often because
Yep,
obviously after they had won four straight, they go straight into a 3-game losing streak. Um, so yeah, I need to see them do it more consistently and string together the back-to-back wins. And when they lose, making sure it's only a once off, or they're taking them to OTs.
yep. Alrighty. On to my pick. Pick number 21. Team that doesn't move again. Nashville Predators for me. Um, Pretty lackluster week. They lose to Dallas. They beat Anaheim. Then they take it to Vegas, lose an OT. So, but they were kind of in all games. I just, 3 out of the 6 points, it was just hard to move them, and that's why I've just got them where they are at the moment. But they took it to two big teams in Vegas and Dallas, which I like to see.
Yeah, and they like that Dallas game. They lost it with 50 seconds to go. They were in that game. It looked like they were going to OT to at least get a point, and they lose it with 50 seconds to go. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's it's a tough week for them. I looked at the Ottawa and the Nashville situation, and at the end of the day, I came to the conclusion like they've both played two good teams, and Ottawa, yes, they got the win against two of those teams, but Nashville were right there with Dallas, and they were right there with Vegas, and they destroyed Anaheim. So for me, I had to leave both those teams where they were last week.
yep. No, I agree.
All right, on to P20 for me. Now, this one might seem odd, but I've got another team that hasn't moved, and it's the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay. Yeah, they don't move for me, but I had them at 18 last week.
Yeah, you were a bit higher on them.
Yeah,
I
what?
just, I don't know, to be honest. Like, they beat Calgary, they beat Seattle in that absolute thunderous win, then they lose to Winnipeg. I just, I'm just not liking their game style. I'm not liking their defense. They played well against Winnipeg, even though they lost. But yeah, for me, I want to see them. string together a few more wins. Um, they what did they have? One, two, three, four, five. Yeah, they've only got 4 wins out of their last 10 games. That's just not good enough from a
Yeah.
team that you'd probably expect to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, my concern was the Calgary game. They get a 2-1 win, but they got outshot by 25 and they only had 22
Hmm.
shots. So more than double. And that's my concern is it's like even when they're getting a wins besides the Seattle one, it's not really convincing. Um and like yeah, that's why I couldn't move them. It's been pretty lackluster. I've still got them a little bit higher. Honestly, it's just probably because they get the feed off the West, if anything. And that's about it. Uh,
Yeah, well, they that Calgary game, they win it off of a power play goal from Connor
yeah, oh,
McDavid.
of course, of
It's one of
course.
it's
Yeah.
one of the things we've spoken about time and time again.
Mm,
If you can stay out of the box against Edmonton, or have a really, really good penalty kill, it'll take you a long way to beating them. Because outside of that, they're not very good 5-on-5.
yeah. I think there's ways to counter the power play because the way what I see anyway, McDavid and Drysdale and whatnot go very low, and I feel like you can counterattack that very easily on a breakout, like with Darnell Nice by himself at the top, like it's almost a guaranteed goal. So I think there's ways to counter it. I just think people haven't figured it out yet. Um, Alrighty, on to my number 20. An interesting one. They moved down one. I cheated on not doing it, but it's the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah. Um, I have the Detroit Red Wings to 18. They don't move at all for me.
Yeah, they moved down one for me. I cheated on not doing it and doing it. It was pretty much a flip of the coin on just how I was feeling. Like they beat the Penguins in OT. They lose to Buffalo, but then they beat Ottawa. Um, so they're kind of showing that they're that mid-table team, losing the Buffalo but beating Ottawa. Uh, and that's kind of where I had to have them. I just think another team had a little bit better of a week, and it seems to just be playing a little bit better. I think.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, you look at it and go, okay, cool, you beat Pittsburgh, but you were 4-0 down. Yep,
Yeah,
yep, cool.
yep,
You, you
yep.
you pulled off one of the best comebacks, but then you tried to do it against Buffalo as well because they were what were they? They were 5-0 down against Buffalo, and they pulled it back to 5-3. So like you can't be giving teams like that that a head start. Um, and it's not going to win you games. Yes, you pulled off a comeback. That's awesome. Well done, but it's not going to be something that you do game in, game out. As we saw, the very next game they play, the next day against Buffalo, they give up 5 goals, but they can't pull this one back. They try and they get 3, but yeah, like if you're giving 3, 4, 5 goal head starts, you're going to lose more than you're going to win.
Mm, yep,
Um, so yeah, they definitely need to tidy themselves up there.
yep. I agree. On to your pick
Right.
19.
On to pick 19. I'm interested to know what you've done because we're both really high on these guys, but they've only managed to win 3 games out of their last 11. And yeah, so I've seen some movement from them. I've got the Seattle Kraken.
Interesting, interesting. I actually have them a little higher. It's just at 17.
Oh, okay, so you have moved on them. I was interested to know how much you had moved on them.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
because yeah,
yeah. Because I got Edmonton at 18, I just couldn't move them lower because they're definitely not below Edmonton. In my eyes. So
they're
that's
not
why.
in mine either.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why
So
I'm at 17 with them. Definitely out of the top 16. It's kind of sad because of how well they were playing at the start, and now it's just kind of
yeah.
it's dropping off, and it doesn't look like the wheels are getting put back on, and I'm not too sure what's going wrong in their system there. But what do they do? Lose to Calgary, lose to Edmonton in a blowout. It's and they're not even like what they were doing at the start of the season were keeping teams under 30 shots, and now they're conceding, 44 and what 32. So it's I don't know what's going wrong there.
I think they're just coming down to earth a little bit, to be honest. I think we all knew they were overachieving. I still hope they can pull it together enough to pull off a wild card spot. I would hate to see them sort of slip out of that wild card position, especially the start that they had. But yeah, I think they're starting to sort of fall down to where we probably thought they would be.
Mm. Alrighty, so the team that I have in 19, moving up one position, is the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I've got them at P17. So they moved
Yeah,
up two for me.
yeah, I just think they had a little bit better of a week. Been playing a little bit better just hockey in general than Detroit. That's why I switched the two.
Mm.
Um, I think they kind of had an easy week though in regards to versing Vancouver, only getting 3-2 win. They're versing a sliding Seattle, and then they lose to Edmonton in a game that they shouldn't have. Um, so yeah, they only move up one. I need to see a little bit more. You could put them above Edmonton, but I just couldn't really. And they lose to them, so you got that factor as well, even though they outplayed them.
Yeah, see, look, I mean, I had Edmonton below Calgary last week anyway,
Yep.
but at the start of the week when that did happen, I did sort of have that thought process. But I do just I think that Calgary's playing a better brand of hockey than Edmonton at the moment. I think they're playing a more sustainable brand of hockey
Yeah,
than
I agree.
Edmonton. So that's why I've got them ahead of them. I think they're getting similar results and they're playing better hockey. So for me, they've got to be ahead of them.
Yep. No problem. Alrighty, we're on to the top 16.
All right, top 16, and yeah, these guys. I think they were in my top 16 not too long ago. They did sneak out for a week or so there, but they're back in. It's the Los Angeles Kings.
Ooh, okay. Where do I have them? I have them just one higher at 15.
Okay. I did have them at 15 at one point this week, and I chopped and changed with my 15th position. Um, but yeah, I mean, I still don't like how they're playing. I really don't. I don't like their defense. I don't like their goaltending. Um, but they're getting results. So I
Mm.
mean, what can you do? The loss against Philly, yeah, it was bad, but they beat Vegas and they beat Colorado. So
Yeah, I would have liked
I
to seen
just
at least be an OT loss to Philly. Um,
yeah
that's my only issue there. But like you said, Vegas, Colorado, that's they're big wins.
yeah they're huge wins against teams that you're probably not expecting them to get results against. But yeah, they keep finding ways to win, and this is the hard part about it. Like I said, I don't like the way they're playing. I don't like watching their games too often. I just don't like how they play. But if it's getting you results and they're sitting, I think, seventh overall in the standings or whatever it
Yeah,
is,
seventh
eighth,
overall,
maybe seventh.
14th point percentage. The interesting though is they're sitting at .600. They're at
Mhm.
points, which is they're the lowest of the .600s.
Yeah.
So I think
But
actually they're
yeah.
getting like because of how they're playing on ice, like how it looks. I think they're getting a little bit underrated almost by some people, just because
Mhm.
it doesn't look pretty, but it gets the job
But it's
done.
effective.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. It's crazy. And that's it. Like for so long I had the Kings at 21st, and they were getting results. Like I reckon I had them at P20 and they were fourth in the standings. And I was just like, how? How is this happening? So I've had to slowly move them into the top 16, and honestly, if they keep winning, they're gonna keep moving up those rankings. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I guess it doesn't have to be pretty if it works, right?
Well, they kind of have to be there just in the fact that they're in the Pacific and at least three teams have to make the make the playoffs. So another Pacific team has to be in there at least. That's kind of how it works. Sadly.
Yep. Yep. True. That is true.
Alrighty, on to my number 16 team that makes it into the top 16. It's the Buffalo Sabres.
Well, I've got the Buffalo Sabres a little bit higher than that. I've got them at P14.
P14, so you're a bit higher. I
Mhm.
I understand why, just because of it's exciting and good hockey, and
Mhm.
they go and beat Boston in OT today, though they got outshot significantly, and they go and defeat Detroit. So a good 2-0 week, 2 out of 2. It's been on the rise. The problem is that their drop off was so significant that they've still got a lot back to climb in the
Yeah.
standings. And though
Yeah.
they're on that run, it looks like they can keep pushing that.
Yeah. Look, if they keep playing the way they have all season, like even when they were on that really poor run, we said it. They're not playing bad hockey. They're playing good hockey. They're playing exciting hockey. They just probably needed to tighten up a bit defensively, and get a bit better performances from their goaltending.
Hmm.
Um, but that's sort of happening now. They've won their last six, and they're beating good teams. That's the other thing to sort of you got to take into consideration. They beat Boston. Um, they they beat Vegas last week. They beat Colorado. They beat the Kings
Hmm.
6-0 a few weeks back. So they're getting wins against decent teams as well. They've just got to keep it going now. They can't have a slip up, otherwise they could find themselves right back down.
Yeah, I gotta say one interesting thing is though, they're 5 games behind LA, so 40 to
Mhm.
35, but they're 10 points
Mhm.
behind. So even if they win all five games, they'll be on the same points as LA. It's kind of an interesting little thing there.
Yeah, but do you want what else is interesting about that? Buffalo's goal difference is plus
I
20.
I know,
Los
I know.
Angeles Kings is -6.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it, of where they are,
It
but
is.
then how
It's
the stats don't line up all across the board.
exactly. Buffalo are winning games and winning games easily. When they lose them, they're not losing them by much. The Kings, on the other hand, are winning games, just, and then when they're losing games, they're getting blown out. It's just, yeah, that, yeah, I don't know. The Kings will probably make a playoff position, whether it's wild card or if it's top three. But yeah, I'm interested to see how long that can hold for them. And I'm interested to see if the Sabres can keep this going because it's going to be very difficult for them to make the playoffs in the East.
Yep. No, I agree.
All right. All right. Moving on to P15. I've got a team that's sliding a few positions. I got the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I got them at 14.
I just, they just had a poor week. Losing all three. The Toronto game you can understand, but losing to Arizona, and probably losing to the Kings.
Well, I consider that a draw
Um,
because it's shootout, but yeah, the Arizona ones are pretty shocking.
they also let a 2-goal lead slip against the Kings in that third period as well. So yeah, probably just not up to scratch. They've still got some players out, obviously, that they're going to get back. I expect that they're going to go on a mad run, and it'll be good night, Dick, when all their players get back and they're fit and healthy. But for now, yeah,
Yeah,
15th for me.
yeah, I understand. I understand that on the drop off. I just couldn't have them below Buffalo, but I get it. Same games, but they're 3 points ahead. But Buffalo's just been on a bigger run. Though, in that said, last 10, they're 6-3-1 for Colorado, where Buffalo are 7-2-1. Pretty similar. But anyway, moving on to pick number 13, I have New York Islanders. So
Is where I've got the Islanders as well.
So they move up a couple positions from where I had them last week. Looks like they move up a couple for you as well. It looks like we're pretty much the same on the Islanders throughout. It's
Hmm.
yeah, it's I like they're getting it done, but I'm not fully impressed. They're kind of in that middle row, and it's really hard to be good in the Metro. Like we were discussing off air, they're sixth in the Metro yet. In some other divisions, they're easily in playoff, and some other divisions they're in a wild card. So, but they're sixth in the Metro. It's kind of rough, I gotta say.
Yeah, well, yeah. They're in a top three position in the West in both divisions. I think one of them they're equal third, but
Mm.
still,
And
when you look at that, it just shows the disparity between the two conferences. Like Islanders aren't even in a playoff spot right now, and um, oh yeah, no, so they are just out. Um, but if they were in the West, they would be easily in. I think they would be what 2 points, 3 points clear.
yeah, yep.
Um, in a playoff spot. So yeah, it is tough, but we knew that. We knew it was going to be tough in the East and especially in the Metro this year. Um, but they won the game they needed to this week, and they
Yeah, well,
also got
they,
the job done against Pittsburgh.
yeah. So they are two divisional rivals, and they win both. So that's a big win against Pittsburgh because it's a divisional rival, and they win pretty comfortably too, which is I think a little bit onto Pittsburgh as well than the Islanders, but it's
Hmm.
they're showing good signs there. But they're still that iffy team. I think they'll keep fluctuating, anywhere from like 16 to 10th or so from how they've been playing on the ice. Already onto your
Yeah, for
pick number
sure.
12.
All right, P12 for me. These guys are moving down a couple of positions. Just had a bit of a hiccup week. I got the New York Rangers.
Yeah, I got the New York Rangers. Just moving down two, not three, for me. But yeah, like you said, just a little bit of a hiccup, isn't it?
Yeah, they were in the Tampa game. Um, it goes to shootout. You could say that was a draw. They, yeah, but that Washington game they got completely eroded. Um, so like, what do you? Yeah, yes, they got an empty net goal at the end to make it 4-0, but they were 3-0 up pretty comfortably. Um, so yeah, for me they dropped a couple positions. I think a few teams above them were just outperforming them.
Yeah, I don't think they had a super bad week because of the teams they versed. It's really just the teams around them leapfrogging, and
Hmm.
it's the Washington game is a big loss honestly because it's a division rival, and I think every point's going to count in the Metro. So that hurts more than the Tampa game. But yeah, like I said, I don't think it's the negative two is more on them losing. It's just the fact that they're getting leapfrogged. Alrighty,
Yeah, 100%.
alrighty. Pick number 11. I have team dropping off a bit. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins. I moved them out of my top 10. It's a bit
Yeah,
rough.
me too.
Whew,
It
alright.
is a bit rough, but I've got them there as well. They've lost 5 of their last 6, and they've lost a few games pretty convincingly as well. So, um, yeah, it's after their great comeback, they've sort of
Yeah.
slipped off a bit again.
That's my worry though. They shouldn't be. They're not a team that should be doing those comebacks. I think they're better than that. Um,
Hmm.
they, so they shouldn't be doing that comeback against Detroit. They get honestly destroyed, I think, by the Islanders, and then big massive penalties. I think there was 15 penalties in the game against New Jersey, so it's hard to have weigh that game because a lot of that game was on special teams. If anything, there was really no weighing the 5-on-5 play. Um,
Yeah,
so
it was not a good game to watch.
no, so
Let's just say that.
so you could flip a coin and that could go New Jersey or Pittsburgh. But I think they've got to
Hmm.
be I think they've got to be a bit better than that with the squad they have. So that's why I've got him dropping outside the top 10. And it's also credit to some of the teams that have gone above him.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Um, my P10. I'm not sure you've got them this low. We had a bit of a conversation about these guys before. Um, I don't understand how anyone can have them much higher than this. But that's just me personally. I've got the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, so I do have them higher, but it's more on to do with how they've been playing throughout the season, not just on recent record. And even their recent record's 5-4-1. I'm just checking where I have them. It is I've got them at P7 actually.
It's just for me. It's just they're we spoke about this. Like they're 12, 10, and 2 in their last 24. But it's not just the record. They have they've only won 2 games in a row in that 24 game span. They haven't won more than 2 games in a row. But it's the teams that they've lost against as well. They lose to Anaheim the other day. They lost to the Kings, who you'd expect to win. Um, they lose to they lose to Buffalo, which Buffalo have been on a tear, but still. And then against when they start playing the harder teams like your Boston's, your Pittsburgh, your Rangers, they only picked up 2 out of the 6 games there. And then like they lose to the likes of Vancouver, Seattle, St. Louis, San Jose. They're dropping points against teams they shouldn't be. Like
Mm,
I honestly think I know their record's really good, but I think their record should be better because I think that they've actually had quite a weak draw.
yep. No, I agree with that.
And yeah.
My issue is that they do have that good record. I think they've been in on pretty much every game they play though. They're competing in every game, and I think they've
Mhm,
only really recently only been blown out like a month ago by the Rangers in a 5-1 game. Every other game, they're pretty much in it to the end, and that's
mhm.
why a lot of those games are going to like shootouts and OTs. And like you can say that's a detriment. You're doing that against teams that you should be smoking, but I also consider it a positive in the sense that they're taking it to teams every game, every night, no matter who it is. You know, if it's Boston all the way down to Anaheim.
Yeah, that's fair. And I do like don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they're a bad side. I just think their record's a little bit better than it is. And hey, the next month is really going to prove whether my thoughts about them are correct or whether they really are a top five maybe team in the comp because their next month worth of games they've got a really tough draw. They're coming up
Mm.
against Colorado, Pittsburgh, Florida, Washington, Dallas, New Jersey, New York Rangers, New York Islanders, Edmonton. That's I know Florida and Edmonton aren't performing out great at the moment, but you can even throw in the LA Kings. It's a
I
really tough 12 game
Yeah,
stretch.
I think the next month shows where they are
Hmm.
completely, unveils them completely, and either they sink or swim. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll have a good understanding where they are by the All Star break. Um, so I'm interested. I'll be watching their games with interest over the next month. That's for sure.
Alrighty, on to pick number 10 for me. Just scraping the top 10. I have the Winnipeg Jets moving down one position.
I actually have the Winnipeg Jets moving up one position, and that's to P9.
Oh, that's fascinating. I get it. They go 2-1, but I didn't really like their two wins. One against Vancouver, then they got outplayed by Edmonton, but they get the win, and then they got they lose 4-1 against Minnesota. So that's why I move them down. It's not just because of the record this week, but it's kind of been on that trajectory a little bit over the past weeks. And I think
Hmm.
just a couple teams below have just leapfrogged them. So they would have not moved because they leapfrogged Pittsburgh, but a couple other teams just leapfrog them.
Yeah, no, that's I can understand. I teed it on would do I drop Vegas as low as I did? Do I move Winnipeg up? What do I do? because you're right, they have sort of been struggling a little bit. They do have a couple of key players out, but yeah, for me, they had a they take 4 points out of the 3 games. Um, yeah, so I just had to move up one position, but they could have easily stayed where I had them last week.
Mm.
Yeah,
Alrighty, your pick.
all right. At P number 9, sorry, P
P8 for
8.
you, 9 for me.
Yeah, P8 for mine. I was looking at your side. P8 for me, I've got the New Jersey Devils, just moving down a couple of spots.
Yep. Alrighty. This is an interesting one. I have them at P6 still. Like, they're moving down one. I don't have them moving down as much as you.
We're still quite high on them.
Oh, it's
Um,
just I had them at 5 last week, and it was honestly like a nothing week in regards to results, so I couldn't really punish it too hard. Losing to Boston, um, and then they beat Pittsburgh. So I don't think that's a
yeah.
really a week you can just go and drop them off the face of the earth. So we'll have to
No,
see
and
see coming on.
the tough thing here is that, you know, the Devils have had a pretty tough run. They're two, what are they, 2-7-1 or something in the last 10. So you know, you could drop them off the face of the earth. People will ask, you know, the Vegas at 10, Devils at 8, but I still think the Devils are playing a lot better brand of hockey. You know, I haven't watched too many games that they've lost in this stretch that I've gone, yeah, they got outplayed. I've watched most of these games and gone, damn, their stupid, silly mistakes have cost them a win here because they outplayed the opposition. They outplayed Boston this week.
Yeah,
They
and
should
that's
have won that game,
yeah,
but
and
they
that's
don't because they make mistakes and it ends up in the back of their net. You know, the Pittsburgh game, obviously, that was just could have gone anywhere. It was honestly a travesty for, you know, any fan watching that game because you didn't get to see two really good quick sides go at it because it was so stop start. But yeah, for me, they drop a couple of positions because of how the results they've been getting, not the way they've been playing. Because I still think they've been playing as a top 5, top 10 team in the league. They're just not getting results, and it's off the back of their own mistakes more than the opposition's gameplay.
yeah. I think they just still lack scoring. I think it might get addressed during before the trade deadline. Because Platt was meant to be somewhat of an answer to that, and he's been out for pretty much the whole season.
Well,
Um,
he'll be back. He'll be back mid Jan, so he'll be back in a week or
yeah,
two,
but
which will help.
yeah, so that's definitely going to help. But I still think they probably need something else as well. Um, but
Yeah,
I just couldn't drop them off because of the week they had. It wasn't really a up or down week.
yeah. No, that's fair. I hope they pull it back. Because they're looking so good on the ice, so fast, and really clean. And yeah,
Alrighty, on to my pick number 9. I have a team that's moved into the top 10. It's the Washington Capitals.
see, I'm a bit higher on these guys. I don't know if I've gone early. But 11-1-1 in their last 13, I've got them up at P6.
Yeah, I think that's early. I just think I don't like doing the whole streaky thing. You go on a streak, you go to top 5, and then you go on a negative streak, you go to bottom 5. I do think they're playing amazing hockey though. It's kind of scary. They've just destroyed Montreal today. Then they go on OT win against Ottawa, and then they 4-0 the Rangers, which is an important game for them. It's the only question for me was that Ottawa game where they kind of got outplayed, I reckon. But then they go and bounce back and just destroy the Canadians. So they're definitely a top 10 team. I think their start of the season was such a big drop off that they just have to keep climbing. Um, and that's why I've got them at 9.
Yeah, yeah, and I get that. I think for me, where I've given them a little bit of leeway, for their performance is had they had a full strength side, I don't think their drop off was as bad as what it was.
Yeah,
So I sort of
I
gave
just
them a few points for that, but
yeah, I just don't like that
yeah,
argument because then it's a lot of ifs and buts for every team. You could argue like
yeah,
New Jersey should be number one because Palat's been out all season. You shouldn't argue that Colorado should be number one because half their team's been out all season. Yet they're still in the top 16. So I don't
yeah.
take that into consideration. I think you just got to eat the injuries and you got to deal with the team that's on ice.
Yeah, they're all part of that. But yeah, look, I just like the way they've been playing. Yeah, I rate them quite highly. So, I could be wrong. They might fall down in the coming weeks. They might completely shit the bed, but they've just looked really good on ice, and really dominant. So, yeah.
Hmm. Alrighty, your pick 7.
Right, my P7. I have the Minnesota Wild,
Alrighty, that's my P8.
a team I had making the Stanley Cup final in our video if the playoffs started today.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
then the very next day they lose to Dallas, who I had them beating in the playoff series, and
yeah.
you had Dallas winning. I was like, thanks for that,
Yeah, well,
Minnesota.
that's what just shows everybody that watches this that you should listen to Jaden and not Nick. Yes. No.
Uh,
Yeah, that was quite funny. It was an interesting time to do the video. I don't think we planned that, but it just happened that way. But
yeah.
on to Wild, they had a pretty good week. Really, they beat Winnipeg 4-1. They beat St. Louis 5-2, and they lose to Dallas 4-1, who we haven't even talked about yet. So they're showing that they're above Winnipeg but below Dallas. So they're kind of in that echelons of the top 10. It's been a good steady climb for them. It looks like they're clicking, and it's good to finally have them where they probably should have been all season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we had them at P2022 at the start of the season, it didn't feel right. This is definitely where I saw them at the start of the season. Um, and I really do feel like they they're gonna be difficult come playoffs. Um, Having said that, the Central Division does become difficult because if it stays the way it is at the moment, um, you've got Dallas, Winnipeg, and Minnesota, and
Mm,
basically two of those teams are going to come up against each other straight off, and one of them is going to be out. And there's probably three teams there that you could see going a long way in playoffs. So, compared to the Pacific, where there's probably one or two teams that you really give a shot of doing anything to. Um, but yeah, that's onto the playoff sort of structure again. But yeah,
mm.
they're definitely playing really well.
Alrighty, I believe it's my pick with pick number 5. I have team we just talked about. It's the Dallas Stars. So
Yeah, me too.
up 3 for me. I didn't feel right doing this, just in the sense that every time they go to 4, 5, or somewhere like top 5, they seem to drop down to 8 or 9 or something like that the next week. It's kind of
They
been
have a
what the
shocker.
yeah. So I'm kind of worried for Dallas fans on just what's going to happen next week, just from history. But they
Yeah,
had a
sorry
real
about this.
yeah. But they had a really good week. Going 3-0, beating quality team in Minnesota, and then easy wins that they should probably win in San Jose, and Nashville did take it to them, and Nashville is a team that can do that, but they get the win. So yeah, they had to move up and back into the top 5. Just I want to see how long they can stay there.
Yeah, well, they've got this week the LA Kings and Anaheim. Realistically, they should win both of those. Um, so my hope for them would be that come, when we do the week 12's video, they're still in this position because they've won both those games. Um, if they lose one of those or both of those games, then sort of we're probably in that conversation of, oh shit, we moved on them too quickly. Um, and I hope for their sake because they have played some really good hockey this year. And yeah, I do think that they're probably one of the West's best contenders at this point.
Yeah, well, clearly not the best, but the second best, yes, for you. Best for me. I'll just keep rubbing it in your face. But anyway, on to the top four.
All right, that's the top four. I've got a team with no movement. I've got the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, they don't move for me.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if we've got any movement in this top four.
Mm.
Because yeah, like you could make an argument for Tampa to move above Toronto. They do win all three games this week, but they beat Arizona, who did take it to them, mind you. They beat Montreal, who, it's Montreal at the moment. And they beat the Rangers, which was the one good win they got.
Yeah, it was in a shootout, but it was on a back-to-back, which was the
Hmm.
impressive part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, Toronto did lose to the Yachts during the week, but I don't think I saw enough from the Leafs to drop them. So I didn't see a poor enough performance from the Leafs this week to sort of drop them below
No,
the Tampa Bay Lightning.
no, that's similar. I guess we can move on to number three then, which is Toronto for me, another team that doesn't move.
Yeah, yeah, I've got Toronto as well. Again, like you could have switched these two teams, Tampa and Toronto, but for me, I think um, Tampa had a poor week last week, I think. Um, so yeah, for me, I didn't want to make that move just off of the one good win they had against New York.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say that
yeah.
I'm more impressed with Toronto and the fact like they're 23-8-6, whereas Tampa's 23-11-1. But Toronto's played two extra games, 5 points ahead. It's just they're getting a lot more OT losses. Toronto,
Mhm.
only losing 8 in regulation to Tampa's 11. And I think that's the big difference is they're taking games to OTs even when they lose, and that's what gets you into the playoffs is just earning those extra points here and there when you do lose.
Yeah. It does 100%. All right, this is the big interesting one. I haven't had anyone but Boston in number one since the first week we did uh, the rankings.
Mm,
Basically, they've been in the number one spot for I don't know 9 weeks running now or something like that. Um, but for me, I've made a change, and Boston are now number two.
alrighty. They're still number one for me. I I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I figured they would.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do it. Uh, Better off point percentage, like one game in hand, and they're 4 points ahead. They're double their plus in goal differential. I think they play a better shutdown game defensively. Like they concede less and they score more. Uh, Look, if you do it just on this week, like sure they shootout loss, it's a draw to Ottawa. Um, then they beat the New Jersey Devils. They could have lost that one, but then they OT loss against Buffalo that they should have won. But once again, it goes to OT. So two draws and a win for me, I don't think is enough to push them down. I understand Carolina's been on a fly and a tear, but yeah, it's just not enough to push them down for me. It's just Boston's been too good all season, whereas Carolina's just gone on a streak.
And look, I understand that. It did take a lot for me to sort of move Boston down. Um, I've just really liked Carolina's gameplay. Um, Obviously, in the video we did the other day, you had Boston winning the Stanley Cup. I had Carolina. Um, yeah, look, Boston for me have looked, even in the games they've won, they've looked a bit shaky. And I think that's where I'm still liking their game. I think they're still quite solid. They just haven't been as solid as they were previously. They've still gotten the results, they're still winning those games. Like the game against, or both games against New Jersey, I think New Jersey dominated them in that 3-1 win that Boston had against them the other day, and then the week before in that 4-3 game, the Devils dominated the first, dominated the third, and I think they lost sight for like 5 minutes, and Boston put three past them. So yeah, I just there's just been a few games there where I think they've been a bit shakier than previously. I still think they're one of the best teams in the league at the moment. They're still very exciting to watch. I've just got Carolina slightly ahead of them currently, given the run Carolina's been on.
Yeah. Like I said, I just couldn't do it. I don't like the whole streakiness regards to you play good all throughout the season. I think even on Boston's bad day, they're still a really hard team, and that's what puts them up there. Whereas sometimes Carolina on their off day can be the walkover, but obviously not recently. Um, yeah, no, it's interesting. That like once again, they've got more. They've got to keep the streak honestly to even match them in points. For a while. So I'll be interested to see what happens in the next week or two. It is interesting that in the top four, three are from the Atlantic, and in the top 10, three are from the Metro. Um, so the Atlantic looking pretty strong, top heavy, but then it drops off significantly towards the middle and end.
Yeah, I think that's the danger of the Atlantic. They've probably got three of the top contending teams in the NHL, but then outside of that, they don't have too much more going on. Whereas in the Metro, I think you can look at any six of those teams besides Philly or Columbus and probably consider them close to contending. Um, so yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting in the East, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, it was a big week. Some big calls by you. Carolina first, Washington six. Some big movements. I think there's some big calls. I think it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. And yeah, let us know what you think about our calls, where we have them. Should they be up or down? Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and catch you guys next time.
Yeah, see you next week, guys. Enjoy.
Bye.